Suspicious. Just a little bit. Alright. Brother. Brother. Alright, we're good. Bone charms small supernatural benefits. Locate them by listening to the song they emit. By default, you can activate 3 bones. I don't remember these being a thing too much.
The liberal consumption of Sokolov elixir, once bleeding from the
I have lived here lived away from the abbey without the company of my overseer brethren or the guidance of the blind sisters of the oracular order. Days have passed with me sleeping in the dens of cut purses, murderers, and worse, and the nights have been me prowling through the worst alleys, wretched corners of Dunwald. I have taken my meals with killers, and at times I have ventured beyond the city walls, meeting in forgotten graveyards and the outlying ruins, frequented by those of ill means. My beard has grown long, and I wear the weathered clothing and bits of boiled leather favored by the Bottle Street and the Hatter gangs, and by those rough men and women who make their trade knifing others in return for coin. My hands have run red with blood. It's true, but I've selected my targets with care, choosing among those criminals and heretics who are not fit to live, executing them justly, and using their deaths as a mean of building my reputation. So far, this trick has allowed me to take my name among my murderous colleagues without taking the lives of the innocent. My goal is singular. I must impress the assassin named Dodd in order to get close to him. Of all the practitioners of black magic we have tracked, none concern the abbey as much as Dodd. It is said that his mother was a witch from one of the archipelagos off the Panasian coast, taken captive by pirates venturing far from the isles. According to the legend, by the time the ship returned, the captain was dead and the witch controlled the crew, with Dodd still a shadow in her belly. The earliest stories tell of a gang killer without mercy moving among the shopkeepers and city watch officers at Dunwall, like a reaper through wheat. Then a period of silence followed. Years. We now believe he spent traveling the Isles, studying anatomy and the occult in the great halls of learning and in hidden basements frequented by fellow dabblers in the forbidden arts. Dodd is even purported to have spent a winter in the Academy of Natural Philosophy itself, and for a time before schism, never mind. It's mechanism, so ism, schism. I don't know. Excuse me, sorry. And for a time before a schism developed, he counted the Brigmore riches among his allies. All the while he honed his craft, and it is during this time that we believe he began to consort with the outsider. New reports emerged of a dusky-skinned assassin paid by the elite to eliminate their rivals in Dunwall and in the other major cities across the Isles. Those who saw him and lived numbered in the handful, but all of them reported something strange. He appeared and vanished like smoke. From a nearby rooftop, he gestured to a woman, and a noble woman stumbled from her balcony, falling to her doom on the cobblestones below. Most recently, as this new threat of plague has risen in Dunwall, Dodd has been seen leading a gang of men in dark leather, dressed as factory whalers in their vapor masks. They seem loyal beyond comprehension for one so unworthy, leading me to wonder if some of his magic is dedicated to lulling their minds, enslaving them. Only a month ago, one young girl claims to have come upon a strange scene. Carrying a bottle of milk home to her crippled brother, She was taking a shortcut from the Taylor district. In a narrow street, she passed beneath a window and heard unusual sounds from within. Pushing aside the ratty curtain, the girl saw into an abandoned apartment used by miscreants for gambling and trading hamper weed. An occult shrine has been erected against the far wall, which she recognized from the teachings given by her local overseer. A man she described as resembling Dodd was kneeling before the shrine, muttering to an unseen spirit as if in argument. He took a carving made of pale bone from the altar before him, and the lights all went out in a gush of unclean wind. Quiet as a field mouse, she slipped away, running until she reached her home. Sorry. There can be no doubt Dodd is an agent of the outsider and must die, for there is no limit to the evil this man might do. This is my solemn oath and the great purpose of my life. Until Dodd is dead and in the corruption and purged from the world, I will continue to live among the depraved, wending my way towards him. I will drop my guise or don my overseer mask again until Dodd breathe no more.
Death is inevitable. All suspicion
Interesting.
of plague, regardless of severity, must be reported.
Slackjaw, okay. What he was like when he was young, before he got his name. Oh, he's got a cool head now, but it weren't always like that in the days before he was boss of the Bottle Street gang. Time was, young Slackjaw wasn't such a reasonable man. Like most of us, he grew up on the streets running with a pack of ragamuffins and avoiding the law, pinching whatever he needed. Dark-haired and dark-eyed, smoking a pipe by the age of 10. For them born into the brothels or coming from the orphanages, it was either the gangs or working with the mudlarks, and no one wants that. Some got pressed into the Navy or put down into the mines run by the Pendleton or Boyle families. As hard as was on the streets, as hungry as we got, at least we were free. By the time we weren't I'm going to say onions, anymore, Slackjaw was one to watch, usually calling the shots. When we took down a farmer's cart or sidewalk street vendor, he'd come up Sally across town, and that was enough to get attention of other bosses. He wasn't just a street kid anymore. Now he was an up-and-comer, which meant trouble. Another guy who fancied himself as such was Mike the Fish, who was working his way up, running the protection racket among the factory women. One fine evening, we're all taking in a body show in the theater house. Mike the Fish and his lot are there, in the cheap seats too, just down the aisle from us. Mike gets a wild idea. He wasn't big on planning, and throws a heavy ceramic splatoon at Slackjaw, hits him square in the face and breaks his jaw. We look to see if there's going to be a blood brawl, but Slackjaw just points at the door. We all leave, with Mike laughing at our backs. Waking up the next day, without telling us why, Slackjaw motions all for us to follow. He still can't say a word, so we just come along. We stop at the docks and Slackjaw actually pays coin for it. A heavy coin covered in hooks. It's for fishing in the deep, something you'd attach to a long line off the side of a ship. It's about 4 feet, made of thick links, and there are shark hooks coming off of it at different angles. Slackjaw got that thing wrapped around his left arm, dangling at his side. Not sure how he knew where Mike the Fish was staying, but when we reach his girl's house, Slackjaw throws a bottle through the window, just like that. It's almost noon. There's a bunch of screaming inside, and Mike pokes his head out, looking wide-eyed and baffled. When he sees Slackjaw out of the street, a look comes over his face, still gives me the willies. Pure murder. Mike comes out the side door, bellowing like a blood ox, holding a cleaver, heading straight for Slackjaw. When they come together in the street, Slackjaw spins and shark hooks bite deep into Mike's arm and shoulder. Let's go, Slackjaw. He screams, but Slackjaw holds onto the chain. He's standing there with his jaw broken, clenched tight, with the chain wrapped around his left arm, hook sunk into Mike the Fish, just knifing him. as fast as he can. Mike couldn't fight very well, hooked like that, and using his left hand, but he was a big guy, and it took a lot of stabbing before he went to his knees. Everyone was cheering at first, but then we all went quiet. It just kept going and going until finally it was just Mike the fish blubbering, crying like a baby, and the sound of Slackjaw's knife. When it was all over, and here's the brilliant part, Slackjaw took out a note and stuck to Mike's face with a nail. It just said, "If you want a job, come to Bottle Street." Slackjaw didn't talk right for a couple of months, but word spread fast. By the end of the year, once we had a sizable gang going, he sent out letters to the other bosses, telling them that he was running a brand new crew over on Bottle Street. Most of them laughed or beat up the guys who delivered the letters. Green-Eyed Trish even came back missing a thumb. But apparently Slackjaw wasn't expecting that kind of reaction, or was expecting that kind of reaction, and had a backup plan. A week later, 4 bosses were dead. Seemed like a series of unfortunate events, but everyone knew better. One shot by the watch while standing in the middle of Meat Market water, out cold. One of the older bosses found in bed, with his belly opened wide and a TV and spear stuffed into his mouth. Still not sure what that meant. And Sheila Barnsworth was found bubbling in a cauldron of hot wax. Slackjaw sent out another set of letters, offers to the underbosses, telling them they'd be treated fair as peers. He even sent Green-Eyed Trish with one of these letters. All of the underbosses accepted. After spilling the guts of his main competition, Slackjaw went in for stabilizing his business real neat-like, calling in favors, smoothing things over, giving everyone a little bit of coin or drink as a bonus, showing what he could be like as a boss. So everything got quiet, which always makes the boys of the City Watch nervous, of course. Words went out among the Royal Spymaster snitches. The Responsible Citizens Group, they called themselves, telling everyone working in a shop or sweeping off the front steps of their homes to keep watchful eyes for Slackjaw and his men, trying to suss out what they were up to and what had just happened. But Slackjaw ain't stupid. He greased a few palms among the shopkeepers in the watch too, telling them that he was in town to stay and that things would be run properly from now on, without so much blood. He was finally a real boss, ready to settle into the business of moving whiskey, running the hound fights, and offering up the ladies and gentlemen of the night, if you take my meaning. Then the plague came. At first, it seemed like a good thing. A few people got sick and everyone wanted to buy those potions from Sokolov or Piero, health elixir, or spiritual remedy, they call them. Slackjaw told me he saw an opportunity. We already had an old whiskey factory with a still, where we could water the stuff down and sell it discounted. Doing the same things with Sokolov's with that elixir was a smart plan. Pretty soon everybody in the slums was sick and business was good. But after a while, there were so many people down with the plague that everyone got scared. Everybody started acting real nasty and everything fell apart. When people can't work, they don't have the coin for elixir, watered down, or pure. When the Empress died, it seemed like Dunwall would slide into the void. Spymaster Burroughs took over the watch, and the watch started using all that new Sokolov technology. Watchtowers, tall boys, and the marked pylons. They put up a wall of light across Clavering Boulevard and cracked down hard. But Slackjaw surprised the skin. Instead of leaving them on a boat, or bound for Morley or one of the other isles, he stayed and kept it all together. We get as much elixir to fight off the plague as the City Watch, with their taxes and rations. That's kept us alive so far. Crowley, Bottle Street Gate. Interesting chat. I'll tell you, Derry, I won't keep any secrets from you in the end. All the deary eyes of my life are the windows of a house from the kitchen. I can see out in the garden, where the leaves and stalks are brown and buggy, and You can see a little lump of dirt where something was wrapped in a blanket and laid to rest among the rows of twisting vines. The front rooms out into the streets where the neighbors are all setting fire to their homes, barricading themselves outside, warm and snug, dearie. Don't forget about the bedroom either. It sees into a dreary alley where hooligans are playing a game with an old man. The first two are hitting him with sticks, and the girl with them is kicking at his dry old ribs. Oh, to have those bones, to boil them in a pot. No one lives in my house anymore, dearie. No one you'd want to meet. When I lived there with my husband, we were fine, fine people. Vere more, everyone would say, your house is as grand as Boyle Manor. Better even. Your dinners are lavish, and your parties are the best. When that young Sokolov came to paint my portrait, I was nearly still in my prime. Radiant, he said. And he was just barely a man, so young, painting all the best people across the land. Everyone wanted a portrait by his hand. All my friends, I was the only one, dearie, wet with his paint, glistening on the canvas for a pretty coin. But it wasn't all parties and paintings. My husband and I weren't always at home. No, we traveled together. He and I to the far ends of the Isles, beyond even, all the way to the red cliffs of Pangaea, to dig in the rock and crawl through the caves, holding up candles and squinting at the walls. Many precious things we came upon, but none so precious as the boy with the black eyes, dearie. All those marks and bones carved so deep and polished so bright. I brought the old bones home, hid them from my dear husband. Then I learned to boil them and carve them myself. They made such good presents, dearie. The little mute boy took them home. He loved them so much. All the time he came back with new bones for me, holding them up so I could see it in his eyes. Even though his tongue was still, Granny, his eyes would say to me, carve these bones for me. Make me another present. And he went so far, all the way to Dunwall Tower, the royal headsman himself now, my little mute boy and his shiny, shiny sword. Better bones were what I needed, you see. Better bones to carve and polish, scrape and gleam. My dear old husband was always tired. I made him soup, and then he was sick. Better bones was all. For my little mute boy, carved in the name of with black eyes. And after my husband was gone, given away as birthday gifts, I didn't want to live there anymore. So now I'm old and don't have many to give my presents to. Is sifting through the garbage for Granny rags and feeding the little birdies that gather at my feet. No one wants to have tea, dearie, especially those rude louts on Bottle Street. Slackjaw and his boys always meddling with an old woman just trying to make her way. In the end, we'll be together with him. You and me in the dreary night with stars above and below, and always the one with the black eyes, dearie. That's kind of deep, bro. That's kind of deep. That's really good. Dude, these books were really good, bro. See, like, some books are very interesting. Okay, here's another one. Sorry, I missed this one earlier. Progress continues on the suppression of gang activity in the Distillery District, but more slowly than I expected. The ruffians operating there have been cunning, I'll grant them that. But it's only a matter of time. I'll see their leaders flagged in public and sent beneath the royal executioner's blade. If I had my way, that mute bastard would be working night and day, removing the heads that need removing. Eternally, the Empress does not seem pleased with my investigations. It seems that it is beyond her thinking, against her very nature as a trusting person, to believe that traitors move among us. But I know they do. They must. No Jasmine, would rather spend her time with the royal protector. At least he's likely to stop any immediate threat to her safety. But as a strong arm is not what is needed against those who would undermine us. How will Corvo's sword stop a poisoned wine glass or an explosive delivered by courier? It will not. There are many threats around us, threats requiring meticulous efforts to police. Young Lady Emily is undisciplined, I'm afraid. Here within Dunwall Tower, she receives instruction from the finest tour known in the Isles, yet her mother spoils her and she spends most of her time lost in imagination, wasting her time drawing or asking Corvo to teach her to fight with wooden sticks. The girl might rule the Empire one day. Every moment spent as a play is time waste, or is a moment wasted. Shoring up security for the main gate leading into Dunwall Tower has been another pet project of late. To think back in his day, Emperor Caldwin left it open to the public during the day, allowing anyone to come and go as they please. If it were up to me, I'd seal off the streets entirely, but the Empress won't hear of it. The water lock is such a much easier thing to protect, and if it were the only way into the tower, traffic in and out would be greatly reduced. Someday the wrong person is going to slip in and will suffer for it. Mark my words, no amount of security is excessive when it comes to protecting heads of state. The Empress also disapproves of my plan for the Sokolov devices. Sokolov himself has no interest in security, of course, but he's vain and therefore keen to see his inventions deployed in any fashion. The wall of white he's been tinkering with has promise. In any case, at least I was able to convince the Empress to upgrade the pistols carried by the officers of the watch. Why do I worry so, when no one seems to care? If I ever fall asleep, with all a sink in the ocean, with the rough things clamber over the walls and fill themselves on our flesh, this is what I see in the same dream several times each month. If only I had more things to say, more authority, I could protect us all. Perhaps I have been working too hard. Dinner and an evening conversation with a certain lady of refinement might be in order. Perhaps somewhere nice, in the East State District, Heron Burrows, Royal Spy Master.
Distillery District. Due to risk of infectious contact, violators will be taken to the Flooded District for treatment and rehabilitation.
That's pretty good. I really do like reading those books, honestly. Chose the proper inclination, he is marked. Overseers are assigned to study the subject. I'm going to read this. I'm going to take a drink real fast. One sec. In order to determine whether this inclination is supported by cosmical conditions and other signs. Ongoing throughout the year. Okay. At the end of the cycle, those befitting further testing are removed from their homes some hours before dawn and must begin the march to an outpost outside the city. There they sit. I already read this, didn't we? Why is this book in here too? Just odd as all.
Elementary sums. History of the Isles. Geography of the Isles. The Seven Strictures. Litany of the White Cliff. Sayings of the Overseer. One day we'll get a few new books.
Is it? Okay. Oh god. After the last day of the month of songs begin. Okay. The new year hasn't started, and thus the time that follows is outside the calendar. A period of celebration and feasting begins, during which the people abandon their very practices that keep them whole and healthy over the year. Many leave their homes, erotic, with spirits or potent herbs. Some paint their faces or wear masks to conceal themselves as they pursue their passions without reservation. When the right cosmological signs are observed and it is time for the calendar to begin anew, the sitting high overseer calls for the hymn of atonement, and the fugue feast begins, or ends. Families return to their homes, wives to their husbands, enemies put down their weapons, and fires are extinguished. No complaint is given for those who have wronged others, deviated from ancient codes, or discarded oaths. For this time during the astrological alignment does not exist, and it is not recorded. The following day starts the new year, marked on the last day of the month of Earth, as it has always been. Okay, I gotcha. Just make sure there's nothing on the beds. Twisted as the engines of the odd vessel roared louder. It was the creation of Orkaido, third prefect from the Academy of Natural Philosophy. He was exhilarated, savoring each of the small craft's undulations. Orkaido pulled a lever, and a great gout of smoke surrounded us. The smell of burning whale oil grew unbearable as the machine propelled itself upward. I was too afraid to look through the window which suddenly didn't feel thick enough. As if knowing my thoughts, Overseer Bryn looked at me and smiled. Recite some of the litany, my pupil. It will protect your heart from the turpitude of the void on our way to the outer spheres. Interesting. Yeah, I actually really do like reading into these things all the time, honestly. I'm not even gonna lie.
If you like, but he won't use it.
Why?
He can't sleep in regular beds anymore, or that's what he says. Says he was in the Navy too long. Can you believe it?
Oh.
That pile of wood out there? It's a hovel he built from an old rowboat. Where does Admiral Havelock find these people, I wonder?
Attention Dunwall citizens. Do not attempt to house or...
I had a sailor for a boyfriend once. He thought he'd strike gold digging in the
Good day,
Pemmican
Master
cliffs.
Corvo.
They found his ship drifting empty.
Are you a nobleman, Corvo? No one seems to know much about you. By your bearing, I'd say so. Lord Pendleton's great-grandfather took a Sakonan chambermaid to wife. On second thought, the story doesn't bear repeating. Even the finest blood can go bad, here and there.
True. True. So, like, okay, there is a second book. Is there, like, it still says entry. So never mind. I didn't know if there was going to be more than one. Also can open this up because we didn't open it up earlier. I think that's it, yeah. Get stuck on something. So we took that book from her, which means we can open any door we please. Literally. Which is kind of nice. I'm not gonna lie to you. Those ones I didn't want to read, I remember that. Wait, did we... That one we already read, I think. I don't remember, but... Yeah. So there's like stairs near here. Do I get entered in this conversation right away or?
Attention citizens of Dunwall.
Okay, good.
The Old Port District
Right here.
added to the evacuation list. The Weaver count for the month of siege has increased. The
See what's
Lord
down here.
has decreed that plague ordinances
I don't think there's anything crazy, just, you know.
stay alert and stay loyal.
Alright, we're good. We're good. That's all that was down here. For now. I'm sure we'll climb up here later. In the future.
Well, let's get down to it. First off, I know that assassination is dark business. But sometimes, good men have to do bad things to make the world right. Our purpose is clear. We want to restore Her Majesty's line by finding and putting Emily Kaldwin on the throne. To those ends, we'll hide, act in shadow, take them apart, piece by piece. Tonight, High Overseer Campbell dies by your hand. It won't be easy. He's protected by his overseers, an army of religious zealots. But if anyone can do it, you can. Your exploits are legendary. Campbell carries a private journal. Once you've eliminated him, get the journal, because we think it contains Emily's location. Recovering her is obviously critical, assuming she's alive. That's the gist of it. Remember our cause and strike true. We're counting on you.
Okay, sounds good.
Another thing. Campbell is holding a former overseer by the name of Martin. He's one of us, and if you manage to find him, give him whatever help you can. He's a master strategist, and he got caught working for our cause. It'd be good to have him back here at the Hound Pits.
Can we talk to
Lydia
anyone
and I
else yet?
trade
No.
chores sometimes, and I'm starting to think I never come out of...
regardless of what you will hear from the authorities who rule over us. It is not a matter of coincidence that the former royal spymaster is the one who stepped in when the late empress fell. We, who will remain nameless, believe that these events are interconnected. The signs of oppression are around us. The so-called designs originally intended to provide light and warmth in our homes have been turned against us as a means of inspiring fear and controlling our movements through the city. And where did this plague originate? Some say it was imported. A wild theory, perhaps. One of our members risked her life to obtain an internal report from the government, which we will be printing and sharing soon, called the Exquisite Tallboy, extolling the virtues of this newest member of the City Watch. To those in the streets below, these virtues are horrors, spread by stilted thugs who rain down fire on the sick and poor. To these eyes, the Tallboy is another government bully, armed with incendiary devices, thickly armored and standing high overhead, looking down at the common people of the city. We now know that the Tallboys are heavily drugged, imbibing a substance that renders them resistant to pain, but also dulls whatever empathy they might normally possess. Exquisite? We think not. Copy these words and share them with your neighbors. And remember, when the tides are lowest, the truth will be revealed.
She's a smart one.
Okay. You want to talk to me, I'm guessing?
Corvo. Hello. I'm Callista. I work here for Admiral Havelock. I'm sorry to intrude on your business, but this is important. I suspect you're going to kill the High Overseer. That wretched man. There's really no reason for you to listen to me. But my uncle, Jeff Kernow, still serves as captain in the City Watch. But he's a good man, and my only family. The chatter in servant circles is that Campbell just took delivery of an exotic poison. And I think I know why. My uncle's not corruptible like the rest of them. Campbell is going to poison my uncle.
Oh.
Do you think you could protect him? You used to do that, right?
Maybe,
Before you
but
had your
poison
current
isn't...
profession.
Can I tell
Before
him
you
that
became an assassin.
he's gonna become poisoned? Is that... Well, I don't get a choice? Okay. I do want to do that, obviously, but... How does one, never mind, I guess. I don't know, I'm putting in random things. I never used that before. So, I want to do the side things.
You know, I
Wanted to make
tried
sure
to
this-
attend services with the Overseer.
Alright, I think we're good to continue now. Make sure there's nothing here. I think... Maybe not. I was gonna say, I think I've
Just
been here.
wondering, sir, if you thought about perhaps seeing Piero before venturing into the
Oh.
Overseer's nest.
Oh,
I'd
no,
recommend
I'm good.
going with the best gear you can get together.
I'm good.
Ready to go? Just give the signal.
Let's go then. Alright, let's get it, chat. I need to refill this. So this should be, let me add a stream marker. This will be our BRB thing. So this will be BRB.